moment our eyes met, I knew I had crossed an unthinkable boundary. The queen of the Varix Empire stood before me, her iridescent carapace glistening under the alien sun, her multifaceted eyes narrowing with a mix of disgust and intrigue. My breath caught in my throat. I had survived the desolate landscape of Erihos, navigated the treacherous terrain, only to find myself here, in the presence of a being whose very existence was whispered in fearful reverence across the galaxy. She loomed over me, a towering spectacle of power and regality, her elongated limbs curling slightly, twitching as though she was restraining herself from striking me down. Her attendants, smaller but equally formidable, hissed in synchronized agitation. Their mandibles clicked, their posture bristling, awaiting the command to disassemble me. I should have been terrified beyond reason, but I was mesmerized. There was an undeniable beauty in her presence, a terrifying grace that made my human instincts scream at me to flee, while something deeper inside me refused to look away. "How dare you touch me, human?" Her voice slithered through the thick, humid air, resonating both in sound and telepathic vibration. It wasn't just words. It was raw emotion, poured directly into my skull. Contempt, fury, a sliver of something else I couldn't quite grasp. I hadn't meant to touch her. The moment had been too overwhelming. My hand had barely brushed the delicate, jewel-like surface of her arm. The faintest graze, an accident born of awe rather than intention. And yet, it had been enough to incite outrage among the Varix. I didn't mean to," I stammered, feeling the weight of the moment press down on me. You were only a fool." Her words sliced into me like a blade. "You do not understand the gravity of your transgression. To touch me, to defile my form with your primitive flesh. Do you grasp what you have done?" I swallowed hard, my mind racing. Among humans, a touch could be accidental, inconsequential, even intimate. But here, in this moment with her, it was a violation, an offense that could mean death. And yet, she hadn't ordered my immediate execution. The attendants bristled, but they did not strike. Her glare was furious, but she did not summon my end. I took in a shuddering breath and dared to meet her gaze. "If I have offended you, I offer my deepest apologies." My voice was hoarse but steady. "I am only an emissary. I came seeking understanding, not to insult your majesty." The queen tilted her head, and something shifted in her stance. The tension was still there, but her anger seemed to be warring with curiosity. "You humans are reckless," she murmured, her voice a mix of disdain and something else. "You believe yourselves so different, and yet you are drawn to danger like moths to flame." I couldn't argue with that. After all, I had willingly entered Varix territory, knowing full well that no human had ever returned from their domain. But there had been no choice. The war between our species had reached a breaking point, and the only path to survival lay in negotiation. I had been sent as the foolhardy envoy, the one desperate enough to try diplomacy where brute force had failed. She took a step closer, her presence looming over me like a storm cloud. "Your kind is weak," she said almost thoughtfully. "Your body's frail, your mind's noisy, and yet, you do not cower." I wasn't sure if it was admiration or another form of scorn, perhaps both. "Because I have no choice," I said honestly. "If I am to die here, I would rather face it with dignity." A silence stretched between us, thick with unspoken things. And then, something unexpected happened. She reached out, one of her long, delicate fingers brushing the edge of my jaw. The touch was deliberate, cold but oddly gentle, a reversal of what had just occurred. Gasps echoed through the chamber. Her attendants recoiled in horror. "Your kind finds meaning in touch," she said softly, more to herself than to me. "It is a gesture of trust, of understanding." I dared not move. I barely breathed. "You risked your life coming here, little human," she mused. "Tell me, is your cause truly worth such foolish bravery?" I hesitated, then nodded. "Yes." Her fingers trailed away, leaving behind a ghostly sensation on my skin. Her gaze burned into me, dissecting me, searching for something. "Perhaps I will allow you to prove it," she murmured at last. Relief flooded through me, but I did not let it show. I had only barely survived the first test. The real battle was yet to come. And somehow, inexplicably, I knew this was not the last time the Queen and I would touch. The Queen turned away abruptly, signaling to her attendants with a sharp click of her mandibles. The tension in the chamber shifted, and the Varix warriors backed away, their hostility simmering but restrained. "You will remain," she commanded, her voice a quiet but unyielding force. "You will learn. You will prove your purpose." A guard stepped forward, their armor gleaming with the bioluminescent markings of the Queen's elite. "Come," they ordered, their tone devoid of warmth. I swallowed hard, glancing once more at the Queen. Her gaze lingered for a second longer than necessary before she turned and disappeared into the darkened corridors beyond. This was only the beginning. The guard led me through a labyrinth of dimly lit corridors, the walls pulsating faintly with an eerie bioluminescence. My heart pounded, but I forced myself to remain composed. Every step I took carried me deeper into the unknown. Finally, we emerged into a vast chamber lined with intricate structures that hummed with energy. At its center, a massive crystalline throne loomed, and before it stood a council of Varix nobles, their eyes cold and piercing. "The human has been granted a chance." The Queen's voice echoed from above, resonating through the chamber. "Let us see if it is worthy of survival." The nobles murmured, their voices a symphony of clicks and low vibrations. A trial, a test, something I had no choice but to face. "Step forward," one of them commanded. I did, knowing that whatever awaited me next would determine my fate among the Varix, and perhaps the fate of all humanity. A towering noble stepped forward, its mandibles clicking sharply. "The trial shall begin. Prove your worth, human." The chamber darkened as the walls pulsed with a shifting glow. A deep hum resonated through the floor, and I braced myself, sensing that the test had already begun.